Kula Z is a program designed by Kula Sports Performance and ubrZati Sports Performance, putting together two systems that have been in place for over 3 decades to maximize athletic potential for athletes, utilizing a ground-based system, but also the treadmill system designed by ubrZati.
So the evolution of Kula Z came about by Brian Kula's ground program. He breaks it down into 3 phases. He breaks it down in acceleration, max velocity, and change of direction. What we did is we took those 3 phases of his ground performance program and we added it in with the protocols and developed a 3-day system to where it's high acceleration, max velocity, and change of direction. It's built into the system. They do a ground program for the first 15 to 25 minutes, and then they come and they do a high performance program on the treadmill, and it's, like I said, it's broken down into 3 phases. They'll do an acceleration day, a max velocity day, and a change of direction day. So this is how the system breaks down, is your athlete will come in for the first 30 minutes. They will do the warm-up and the Kula ground speed program, whether it be acceleration, max velocity, or change of directions. They will do a ground program for speed development for 30 minutes. After that, they go to a fly 10, timed fly 10, run 2 to 3 of those, and from those fly 10s, after their time, they come to us on the high-performance treadmill. We go into the system, whatever it may be, and they do 15 to 20 minutes of our ubrZati protocols, okay, whether it's acceleration, max velocity, or change of direction. After 15 to 20 minutes of running through the protocols on the high-performance treadmill, the athlete will then go and do a mass-specific forced lift to increase strength at the weight room, in the weight room, on one of the racks, and they finish it from there. We talked about the 3 phases within the Kula Z program: acceleration, max force velocity, and 360s, or what we call change of directions. So what will happen is they come in for acceleration. They will do the accelerated movements, which is horizontal development, more contact time for more power development in that horizontal plane of motion. On the Kula ground, then from there they do their fly 10s, and they come to the high performance treadmill. They will do a specific acceleration movement on the ubrZati protocols and finish with a non-motorized sled push forced speed run on the Z tread itself. From there, they will go and do mass specific force that is, okay, forced for acceleration movements within the squat rack itself. Second phase is vertical force production, what we call max velocity. They will get into the Kula program. They will do, it's more vertical forces, less ground contact time, more speed development. Once again, they will go outside. They will do their fly 10s, time fly 10s, come to the ubrZati Z treads, go within the protocols, and we will do max velocity specific protocols, and then they will finish with low incline, higher speed runs for that less contact time, higher vertical force production using the low inclines and speed of the belt. Once again, from there, they will go back to the racks and they will do a mass specific force that is geared toward max velocity. The third day is change of direction. What will happen is you get on the turf, do the Kula ground programming, change of direction. Then they go into a 5-10-5, what we call a pro agility test. No fly 10s at that time. 5-10-5 pro agility. To the treads, do what we call 360s, where they go lateral, backwards, and lateral on the treadmill, and that is your third day change of direction on the Kula Z programs.
We kind of believe that the efficiency and force output component is like where we live. And so a lot of that is just the movement piece on the ground of teaching kids how to push through their feet, which typically, I mean, it sounds really simple, probably to all of you guys, but that's where kids miss, right? They reach, they're back-sided, you know, they're constantly in plantar flexion. And so, you know, although that thing kind of makes you get into those great positions, we feel like it's really important to reinforce it on the ground. And so what we'll take you through is kind of our series of how we approach. I think you guys have already started implementing a little bit, right? So you guys understand it, and you guys are all elite movers and coaches, so you understand it. I'm just trying to give you kind of a high-level look of why we do what we do. And then the other component too, like the Bounce Fire series and that force output piece, is the triplanar movement and the 3-dimensional stuff, where we're trying to get tissue resiliency and tissue exposure through, you know, sagittal, frontal, and transverse planes. which I know is all you guys is, you know, again, I don't think we're teaching you guys a whole lot. We're just going to kind of show you how we formulate it and how we put it into practice. And I think as the Kula Z concept is evolving, we feel like the groundwork has to be efficient. It has to be quality, which is only going to enhance what the treadmill does from a, you know, the incline piece, the speed component, and the fact that it reinforces everything that we're saying down here. I mean, if you don't do those things well, you'll get spit off the back, you know, or whatever. We typically try to see an athlete just in one session. We try to accomplish everything, just in case we're seeing them once a week, that we were going to get the potentiation, the movement and activation. Then we get the tread work, but then we also try to get what I call mass specific force lifting. And I can go through that a little bit today too. I thought I could just kind of,
we want to do that for sure.
I want to explain that to you and why it is. And it's not even an original thing. I took it from Barry Ross and just kind of ran with it, but I've been doing it for about 12 years now. And it's, I don't know, it kind of bucks what we would think we have to do in the weight room to move the needle for an athlete strength-wise, especially if they're not like a contact sport athlete. You know, you kind of have to take football and put it over here and then talk about all the other sports at some level when it comes to strength training, in my opinion. So we'll talk through that too. And that then kind of becomes the Kula Z programming that we're trying to, you know, spin off for colleges, high schools. Heel striking first, which I know is totally counterintuitive. I got a great little anecdotal story for you. I had one of the fastest sprinters in the country in 2006, pulled his hamstring in the indoor season. Came out, what I had him do was what you're doing right now for 400 meters. Then I'd have him snap, which we're going to teach you. We'll do that again. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's a great story because you just talked about the fatigue. And he came back out after doing this for 6 weeks, no running. He just did the walking progression, the snaps and the bounces. 21.7, first race back.
Dang.
All lifetime PR, coming off a hamstring injury. Keeping his ankles, feet, knees going, taking stress off the hamstring while it healed, and he came back out and ran. So again, I am such a believer in this that I'm like, it's the special sauce. So it's important. I don't care if you're a hockey player. I'm going to teach you how to run faster, because then I get a faster fly 10, which makes you skate faster. And now we have just too many anecdotal evidence of that working, that's just what that's what we do. If we didn't have the treadmills, if we never met Bo, it would be, you know, we'd come back and get on the skill mills and do some reps at like 8-second runs. Or maybe if we had space, we would run 8 by 80 meters. You know, it's the same concept, or hill runs, or, you know, whatever. This just makes it way more convenient. Well, it's convenient and 1,000 times better for many reasons. So the idea of mass specific force is how strong can you get relative to your body weight? And so the idea is to try to attack, stay out of hypertrophy, stay in the high recovery, high output range of lifting, French contrasted with a plyometric for high power output numbers, and then you just live in that all the time. It works for 99% of athletes. There's a few athletes that need some hypertrophy. If you play D end, you know, and you got to be bigger, then there's a certain level of hypertrophy that you need. But just getting muscly doesn't necessarily, it's not a one-for-one for speed or athleticism. In our opinion, and you guys are a private facility, every kid that walks through that door is getting more than enough weight training somewhere else. They're a high school football player, their coach is lifting them 5 days a week, they're idiots, they do way too much, they got all the hypertrophy 3x10 that they could ever want. Why would we try to jump in on that and do more? Julia, if I let her, would never go in the weight room. She would just do an hour's worth of movement and speed. She doesn't care because she knows, you know, and we know that that's the lowest hanging fruit. If a kid gets stronger, they're going to get faster and all the things. And so it is important, but we like to think of our weight room as a support mechanism to whatever we did in movement, right? So it's not just like, oh, we're going to heap on now and go do arm farm and get these big muscles. And, you know, it's more, what did we do? It was an acceleration themed day. So what are we doing in the weight room that supports that? If all you did was the trap bar deadlift and the plyometric with the 5 minutes recovery, we think you're going to get enough of the right kind of lifting in that session for what we're trying to accomplish. And I do buy into the rest. And so it's like with my people, hey, I want to lift, but I want 5 minutes recovery between every set. Cool, you're at the weight room for 2.5 hours. No one's doing that, you know, there's just no way. When I talk to my staff, I'm like, let's take football and put it over here, Christian McCaffrey and put it over here. And now let's talk about all these other athletes that need help and development and what do they really need? I mean, even the NFL guys, some of them like, The big weight room guys, big weight room guys. Luke Keekley, I got to work with him a little bit. Huge weight room guy, retired after year 8. Greg Olson, huge weight room guy, injured every year of his career. Like, I'm not saying it's a 1-for-1, but you know, as they get older, what do they really need? They need this: movement, mobility, you know, efficiency. And so that's what we've become much more about. And we're like, if that model works for them, why can't it work for the kids? Because we are seeing a ton of like weight room. What's that?
Brady didn't lift really like much, right? He just was
None. Hardly any. I mean, a lot of bands, a lot of, you know, it ends up becoming, it's almost like return to play. It's almost like, you know, recovery type work, you know, and just tissue movement, mobility stuff at that level.
ubrZati is a culmination of 25 plus years of my experience in using high performance treadmills in speed development and human performance for athletes, specifically youth athletes. We use it up into the professional levels, but specifically designed for youth athletes. I had a degree in health and human performance, wanted to do something with that to basically teach young athletes to move with more efficiency, higher rate of force, greater strength, greater speed, basically greater performance. After my degree, I moved to Alaska, where I learned through a program that used and utilized high performance treadmills, took that experience and developed a whole program of my own around the high performance treadmills, because I saw that the high performance treadmill had a really high efficiency for developing athletes' performance specifically for speed, and I could do it in a lot shorter span than teaching them ground speed or trying to teach them on ground, which led to the culmination of, you know, 300 plus pages of instruction manual on how to use protocols and to develop human performance utilizing high performance treadmills. And that's basically what ubrZati has become, is that culmination of 25 years. And when I met Tim and Dario and became associated with what is now ubrZati, they sat me down and said, hey, let's put this into a system. Let's build our own treadmill. Let's build our own high performance treadmill. Let's build a system around it, a systematic methodology approach to speed development for athletes. And that accumulation of 25 years of experience and their business experience led to what ubrZati is today.
Who is Brian Kula? Brian Kula is just a snot-nosed kid from northern Colorado who grew up in a coach's family. I was a high school football and track coach for 25 years. Went into business in 2018, and we've grown a sports performance business in Denver, Colorado. But at heart, I'm a sport lover and just love athletes and the relationships that it brings when it comes to coaching kids. Yeah, one of our staple components in our company is our Bounce Fire series. Originally, it was 1997, I believe. Julie Haley, who's worked with me now for over a decade, her parents had actually done some of these exercises, and I had been fortunate enough to go jump in on a training session with them and learned that and kind of tried to replicate it over the next 20 years. And then lo and behold, I met Julie at a track meet about 10 years ago, and she came to work for me on my track staff and has really been a critical component in helping us grow our company and our business and how we develop athletes. Our partnership with ubrZati was born through some common relationships, and I just fell in love with their passion for speed, number one. Then I got to meet them and found out that they had a lot of similar values in us of culture, how they care about kids, and really want to just do what's right by athletes. So there were a lot of synergies in our two companies and felt like it was the right move. Kula Z programming is built to hit every component of athletic development. We have an acceleration model, a max velocity model, and a change of direction model to make sure that every athlete has complete development when they're looking at speed, whether it's linear, lateral, or change of direction. Yeah, with the Kula Z programming, we feel like we can have athletes develop in every phase of athletics. As far as energy systems go, we're training the central nervous system at the highest level through speed. Sprinting stimulates the central nervous system higher than any other activity that you can do. And this system is going to help athletes be faster, mechanically, mobility, flexibility, stability, power output, strength, all things athletics are brought into the fold for this system. The Kula Z system's built for every athlete. Sport agnostic, we don't really care what sport you play. This is a system designed for any athlete to maximize athletic potential using ground-based system and treadmill to move the needle for them athletically. Kula Z is built for any age group, built for the youth athlete, for development, also can be applied with professional athletes. So we have a wide variety of athletes and age demographics that we can serve with the Kula Z programming. Kula Z programming, there are levels of progression where we're going to go from simple to more complex movements, from slower to faster speeds on the treadmills. And so there's certainly an entry point for young athletes, but then also the ability to grow with the program as the athlete develops. For athletes training in the Kula Z system, it's important that they get consistent training in. And so whether it's 1 or 2 or 3 times a week, we think that optimal development in the off season would be 2 to 3 times a week. In season, very important to continue to have the touch on the central nervous system. So at least 1 day a week in the in season is critical for that continued development.
So one thing that I realized with the protocols and the use of a high performance treadmill was I was not blind to the fact that that was not the only way to train athletes for speed development, that there had to be a ground aspect to it and a strength aspect to it, meaning the athletes had to come off of the treadmill, right? Regardless of how good it was, they had to come off the treadmill and they had to get onto the ground and they had to move with efficiency of what we taught them from the treadmills and the speed development we gave them on the treadmills to actually use that and utilize it on the ground. I used to call it transference, meaning take what we've taught the central nervous system on the treadmills and apply it to the ground. And so when Brian Kula called me up and he told me about his ground and his performance and his 30 years of experience of actually training athletes on the ground, and then he asked me about my experience with the speed development on high performance treadmills, I think at that point in time it was like, hey, let's take your 30 years, let's take my 30 years, and let's combine it and let's develop a ground program in conjunction with the ubrZati program and develop a whole new system that really doesn't exist. Speed development on the treadmill, speed development on the ground, and come up with a whole new system. And lo and behold, that's what Kula Z has evolved into, and that's what Kula Z will be. Speed on the tread in conjunction with speed on the ground, combine the two, and you get a program that just doesn't exist, that, in our opinion, is the best out there.
Yeah, the treadmill itself is a very unique piece of equipment. I've been on a lot of treadmills over the years. This one's special, it's unique, it's next level. The software, the protocols that have been written have been done with great detail. I think what we love about a treadmill is no matter how much space we have or athletes we're running through, we have an opportunity to serve them. I think the ability to coach proximity, where we can correct an athlete in real time, is essential. And then the incline is obviously where the gold is in a treadmill. And so we get to monitor and develop that over time with a systematic approach.
So one thing too is what we see in every instance that we do on the high performance treadmills is they have a mirror in front of the treadmill. The reason for that mirror is an athlete can get up on that treadmill, they can see themselves in real time, they can listen to me tell them what to do, how to do it, whether it's arm drive, knee drive, foot placement, ankle placement, head placement, shoulder placement, whatever it is we're telling them to do in a specific time, that they can see themselves, they can hear me talk, they can hear me tell them what to do, they see themselves, they hear me, and they feel it all at the same time. It's called kinesthetic awareness, and there's no better way than an athlete to pick up the biomechanical efficiency that we're talking about when they can see, they can hear, and they can feel in a 10-second span, but you do it over and over in that periodized approach that we're always talking about, using those protocols. There's absolutely no better way than an athlete to gain that biomechanical efficiency because of them seeing and feeling and doing all in real time at one time when they're on that treadmill. So much more effective than getting them on the ground, filming them, having them do X amount of sprints, having them come back saying, hey, you need to do A, B, C, and D, whereas I say, hey, we're on the treadmill, you get up there and I want you to do A, B, C, and D, and you do it, you see it, you feel it, and you hear it at the same time. There's no more efficient way than do it than on a high-performance treadmill in front of a mirror, having a coach tell them exactly what to do in real time. So here's the best thing about the ubrZati Kula Z and the Z Tread in general is the automation, all right, of the system itself. Everything is within the screen. The protocols, everything you need to know as a trainer and as a coach is built in within the system itself, built into the treadmill, okay? That includes the ubrZati protocols, and that includes the Kula Z protocols. And through the education with myself, as I will teach your coaches, I will teach your trainers how to run the Kula Z system, how to run the ubrZati protocols. Because it is so easy, simply go to the screen, okay? Hit a system, boom, there it is. Follow the protocols, week by week, day by day, session by session, through the education and through the automation of the videos that we can supply you as well. I teach you the cueing, how to run the athletes on any given day, on any given session, on any given protocol, and it's as simple as that. So the best part is the development of Kula Z is taking the ubrZati protocols and combining it with the Kula ground speed system and adding in a program to where you take ground and then you come and you do the high performance treadmill. So we have the system of acceleration, max velocity 360. So if they're doing acceleration day, they will run the Kula program on the ground for say 15 to 25 minutes, 30 minutes. Then they come to the treadmill, come to the system, they come to the Kula Z acceleration week 1, session 1, follow the protocols, and they finish with an accelerated speed run. Because of those 3 systems that we develop within the Kula Z program, the athlete will now be able to go to their specific sport and allow their coach to teach them the specific skill that they need for that sport. Because of the way we train them with the energy system, the movement system, and the central nervous system, their skill will be better because of the way we train them within the Kula Z program. And it doesn't matter what sport they play.
Kula beating Max by, yeah. Oh, it was enough. Just by enough.